Welcome everybody to the second video in the Rubrik Bitesize series with me, Pete, and Harps. And today we're here to talk to you about better backup and recovery, which feels a little bit like going back in time to when I first joined Rubrik in 2018, and I was walking around all of the partners telling them we had this new cool backup solution on the market. But things have moved on. So I'm going to ask Harps a really kind of open question. Harps, what's your opinion about Rubrik's USP?
So obviously we do a lot, since you first joined, there's a lot of additional things that have coming in especially from a data security perspective. But I guess I get asked this question quite a lot. I tend to just say my USP for Rubrik is that we have a single solution, a single platform to protect your on-premise, your cloud, your SaaS, M365, NAS Cloud Direct, everything is all in one single solution. So that for me is the biggest USP.
Okay, so I get that, like single platform, single solution. But if we strip it down to the basics, why Rubrik for the backup side of things? What do we do better than other people out there?
So let's take it to zero trust. We are the software, we are the hardware. We're a converged platform. So straight away, conforming towards zero trust. We do everything, and anything around the data security it's all of us, our stuff. We're not leveraging third-party tools or anything like that. We are doing everything in this single platform. We have concepts of SLAs. So I worked in a bank where we had hundreds of jobs, and if we wanted to make any changes to any of those jobs, we'd have to go and change it on 100 backup jobs. So concept of SLAs is you can basically group whether it's on-premise, cloud, or databases, everything into a subset of SLAs. You can even just have one SLA if you wanted to for absolutely everything. Do incremental backups, but the main thing is it's really, it's a modern data protection solution with obviously cyber stuff on top. But it's quick, it's easy to install. It's got a slick GUI, which won an award as well this year. So it's very, very simple.
So that all sounds kind of nice and kind of cool, good backup solution. But the reality is that people back up for a reason, and that's because they one day might need to recover, right? Which is where it gets cool and interesting. So what's your perspective on Rubrik's capabilities around recovery? Where do we differentiate there?
So obviously we've got the traditional recovery methods as you would expect a modern platform to have. Something that probably doesn't get talked about enough is our live mount ability. So that's basically, if you've got a backup taken of last night's backup, I have the ability to essentially bring that up onto the platform. So spin up that virtual machine. I can log into that virtual machine and have a look at that backup, as like almost like a snapshot within the platform, which is really important. Also, we can tell you about, obviously with the live mounts, we can pass it to security if they need to do any forensics on it. We can tell you the last known good snapshots if anything happened, which is really important. TravelX took 6 months to try and identify what the last known good point they could recover back to is. We can do that very quickly. We can do things like quarantining in, which is really important nowadays. If something malicious comes into your environment, we have the ability to kind of quarantine it straight away and make sure that we're not recovering that back into production. And probably the area that doesn't get talked about enough is our cyber recovery ability, which is utilizing things like live mount, but being able to even do things like DR tests. You can do one a week if you wanted to within Rubrik, because essentially we're using live mount to be able to recover the platforms or the services, and we'll give you the run times and stuff like that, so you can go back to the business and guarantee that you can recover your critical apps in a 3 hours, for example.
So it's like having really simple backups, really scalable, kind of one single solution to back it up. Quick recoveries that happen within the platform, right? So that becomes a foundation. One of the things that I talk to partners about when I get the question of, I don't really understand, is Rubrik backup or is it security? And the answer is effectively both. But if you think about Rubrik as a recovery tool, and yesteryear, the thing that would cause you to need to do a recovery was most likely going to be a fire or a flood or something like that. Today, the most common thing is going to be a cyber attack. It's way more likely that a cyber attack is going to come in and take out that primary infrastructure. But you talked about how Rubrik's got that converged solution, and that, you know, we talk about the data vaults or the bunker in a box, right? Why is it important that the backup infrastructure itself is secure? Is that something that we're seeing customers struggle with, you know, traditional solutions?
Yeah. So part of our Zero Labs report, the last one that just got released, what we found is 93% of the attacks are actually, you know, they're targeting the backups in some form. And actually 3/4 of that, 73% of that was actually successful. So backup infrastructures are being hit, and they're being hit hard.
So when the backup infrastructure is down, the tool used to recover isn't going to be there, right? But we're also starting to hear about like the actual data itself inside these backups. And you know, one thing that I wanted to get your opinion on is the rising credential theft.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
you know, we've got it all in a bunker, in a box, and everything like that. The data itself is secure, but we're still seeing, you know, this be a problem. Why is that? What's going on out there?
So imagine you've got the most powerful safe, you know, with all the features, but if you manage to get the key to get in there, or the security code to get in, doesn't matter how big a safe you've got in. So credential theft is their way in for the bad actors. So we're seeing that on the rise, whether they're making phone calls to the help desk to reset a username and password. That happened at the MGM Grand. We're also seeing education being hit because they're planning for the future. They know these are the CEOs and CIOs of tomorrow. They're stealing their credentials. And I learned yesterday that we're also seeing physical violence to take credentials as well off people just to get in.
Well, yeah, we are talking about organized crime, right? And racketeering and extortion. You know, I guess any tactic is on the table for people if they operate outside of the laws and things like that, right?
Absolutely.
So let's say hypothetically, right, I'm the you know, CEO of an organization, and you know, someone stole my password when I was at school, and they come in and they stole my credentials. What would happen if they had Rubrik? Like, what do we want to try and help those customers with?
So credential theft, if theft is happening, so if I stole your username and password, I still haven't got your phone. So if I'm, you know, with Rubrik, we use MFA, multi-factor authentication. So you get that code on your phone. So unless
Yeah,
I've got your phone, I can't get in. But let's say I did nick your phone as well, because I used physical violence and I overpowered you. Um, the next
try.
stage, the next stage after getting in, and I've got the MFA, is what if I just go and delete your backups? Well, within Rubrik, there's our backups aren't visible on the network. They're hidden away. So they're logically air gapped. The first copy of your backup is always hidden in this append-only file system. And append-only file system is the important thing, because append only means you can only write data in it. You can't delete data. So even if I got in, I can't see the backups. But if I got to the backups, I still can't delete anything. I think you mentioned before, it's like having a keyboard without the delete command. You know, you can't do anything about it. So the other thing beyond that is, if I can't delete it, then the bad actors will try and change the retention. Can I just change, we normally keep our backups for 4 weeks. Can I go in using your credentials and try and change that from 4 weeks to 1 day, so that tomorrow you would think that your software would look at it and say, hey, the retention's met, I'll delete the data. Well, we're not vulnerable to that either, because essentially, if you want to change retention, it's not something that happens often, is we have a 2-person rule. So if you're using support, for example, support will ring the 2 people that are approved, changes of the retention. Once they confirm their identity and they both approve the request, only then a retention can be changed. So we've kind of thought of everything, even so much when we're talking about zero trust, we don't even trust the clock on the server, because we have seen some softwares out there vulnerable to things like NTP poisoning, because they just changed the clock date to the year 2075, and the software will think it's 2075 and delete your backups.
Yeah.
We're not vulnerable to that, as we basically don't even trust the clock.
I've had to learn so many interesting words since joining Rubrik, but monotonic is my favorite because it's hard to say, and you sound really cool when you do say it. So yeah, monotonic clocks get around that NTP poisoning. Look, I think we've covered everything. I think, in terms of summary, if we bring this to a close, we've started with a solution that was designed to help customers do really slick and easy backups, like converge all of that difficult, complex stuff in the past and modernize it. And then on top of that, we've built these different layers. We built in the basics around recovery so that recovery is really easy and really simple to search for stuff. We can leverage LiveMount to do those quickly and at scale. And then on top of that, because the thing that's going to make you need to recover more than likely is going to be a cyber attack, we've gone down the route of helping customers by developing tools that can help them recover from that cyber attack super quickly with minimal impact, no data loss, and the ability to hit a big red button to recover, right? So they are linked, but I do get why people ask that question. So let's bring this one to an end, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks, Hearts, for all of that. I think it was really interesting. And if you've got any requests, don't forget to get in contact with us, and we can add them to the list of topics to cover on the next bite sizes. See you all soon.
Take care.